The greatest moments for me as a teacher and an educational leader was when there was a sense of joy and spontaneity and innovation in the classrooms that either I taught or I observed. In fact, when I first started teaching way back in 1970, there was no inspectorate. It was up to me to create with my colleagues a curriculum and then had to deliver the instruction that we felt was most appropriate for kids, and then create atmospheres for kids that were really joyful and wonderful. And I can tell you that to this day I remember some of those children. And then when I became a principal and superintendent, those classrooms that I observed that had that kind of setting were always on the top of my list. 2001 comes along with No Child Left Behind, and I'm a superintendent at the time, and I'm thinking, hey, I feel a little shrinkage here. I feel like this expansive kind of attitude that I used to have about my schools, which is really what kept me coming back, was no longer the priority from the government and from the policymakers and the inspectorate. So I decided that I need to fight this thing, and even in my superintendency, I did some refusals. I said, I don't think that we're doing the right thing by kids. I think we're taking the second of life out of classrooms. Teaching, as one of our speakers said today, is like planting a seed. You don't necessarily see the growth, maybe for 6 months or a year, but you know that with the right soil and the right conditions, the seed will grow. The same thing happens in schools. I call them lagging indicators. You can't put what happens in March on a spreadsheet and then say to the teacher, we're going to judge you by that, because those very children in that March of that year may not appreciate the work that's done for years to come. Maybe there isn't a metric that's quantifiable for teaching. Maybe it has more to do with creating atmospheres, creating experiences for kids, seeing if there's anything, I'd like to have a joy index. It's as silly as it sounds. I would like to see schools joyful. If I could be high in the joy index, then maybe that'd be okay with me. So in the last 10 years or so, I've traveled to China and to Finland, and I've made several stops in South Africa. In each of the cases, I haven't seen any of the mythology in action that we promote in this country. First of all, Finland has no standardized tests except for one at the very end. And talk about joy, and talk about inspectorate. There is a lot of joy. There's no inspectorate, and they are always at the top of the list. So if we want to emulate any place, and I actually even mentioned this to the Secretary of Education yesterday, I said Finland doesn't even have any tests. One at the end. I said, you want to emulate a place where you're always touting? Let's look at Finland. China. I went to China and I was talking to the parents of kids in school in China, and they said, you know, we're too competitive in China. We're killing our kids. So no matter where you go in the world, parents seem to have the same interest, which is I care about my kid and want it to be a whole child. It's only in this country it seems that we're gonna go one step further, and we're gonna make sure our kids are. It's almost a competitive American spirit that says, no matter at any cost, we're gonna make sure our kids do well, even at the cost of our children. And the great irony is we're actually we're testing our children to save our children. If we have some kind of momentum here, and parents realize it, your kid's going to be okay even though they didn't take that test, and we get more and more, if we can get that pendulum to swing to a threshold point where more and more parents do it,